Washington and with lower taxes, America's best days are still yet to come. Don't you ever let some spoiled celebrity or athlete or socialist politician ever tell you otherwise. America's not just an idea. It's not just a constitution. America is our home, and we must protect our home. One thing America is not some vaccine to global tyranny that we have to administer through decades of military occupations in foreign lands. No, success means we honor how special America is. And it also means that we have to see our leaders for who they truly are. Now, Liz Cheney taunts me for wearing makeup in my television appearances. Now, makeup only hides the slightest imperfections of the skin. It does very little to conceal the soulless corruption of Washington, D.C. You know, it's pretty easy for me to get a little makeup off my shirt. Far more difficult for Liz Cheney to get the blood off her hands after sending America's best to foreign lands to die for a knowable gain and personal profit. 80% of Taliban fighters have never been more than 20 miles for their own home. And so it's a little confusing to me why Liz Cheney's always fighting in Congress to spend more money in Kandahar and in Arabia than in the great state of Wyoming. But maybe it shouldn't surprise us all that much. In 2016, in that election cycle, Liz Cheney announced her candidacy for Congress from Wyoming from Virginia. How out of touch! How untouchable she must think she is. Now, the neocons say, we gotta fight them abroad so we don't have to fight them at home. Well, maybe we have to fight them abroad because we are abroad so much. You know, I was gonna say, maybe we ought to fight the neocons at home so we don't have to fight them in Washington, D.C. But that's the problem, isn't it? Because the neocons are at home in Washington, D.C. Liz Cheney and I came to Congress in the same class, but she was already a master of the ways of the Beltway in ways I will never be. Because she's lived there for all but about 2 years of her life. That was a little bit of a problem when she wanted to run for the United States Senate here in Wyoming. She claimed to be a resident of the state for 10 years based on a fishing license. Of course, she wasn't, and she quickly withdrew. By my count, that's the last time a Cheney had a viable exit strategy. I think your U.S. Senator Loomis said it best. It's a unique strategy to live your entire life elsewhere and then come to a state a year before you're going to announce that you're going to run for that state's highest office. I think Senator Loomis is right. Liz Cheney is not Wyoming. But Cheney came back. The neocons are nothing if not persistent. Now in 2016, I announced my campaign for Congress in Florida's 1st Congressional District. I represent the district that has the highest concentration of active duty military and veterans in America, and we love our military and veterans. You see where I come from, military families, they aren't just a great feature of our community, they are the essential ingredient of our community. And I see every day the cost of the wars that Liz Cheney has advocated for. I see it in the tearful goodbyes in airports, the marriages that are destroyed, the parenting that's interrupted, the drug abuse, the veteran suicide, lost limbs, lost minds, lost lives, lost hope.
Amen.
We are here in the cowboy state. Now, I understand that, the media, they used to call Bush Cheney cowboys abroad But I think that's a slur. Because the cowboys I know, sure, they're tough and they're brave, but they're also judicious and smart and thoughtful and tender and gentle when the cause comes. Not exactly what you think about when you think of disloyal Liz Cheney. Now, the real cowboys, I guess they fought Indians so that they could use the land. But what are America's soldiers even fighting for that Liz Cheney sends all around the world? What are the great benefits that we all get from our misadventures in Syria and Afghanistan and Somalia? Places that a lot of Americans couldn't even point to on a map. You see, real cowboys, they would have found greener pastures than Afghanistan, and it wouldn't have taken them 20 years to do it. We are here in Wyoming, and in a lot of ways, this feels like the most American of states. Self-reliant, on the frontier, maybe a little hard to get to. And so how is it then that Wyoming has such a disappointing congresswoman? I guess you have to ask yourself the question, why is it that America has such a disappointing Congress? Because in a lot of ways, Liz Cheney is exactly like Congress. Deeply unpopular and owned by special interests. Matter of fact, last year, in the year 2020, Liz Cheney raised more money from political action committees than she raised from actual human beings. Think about that. More money from PACs than from people. She works for them, not you. She does their bidding, not yours. I stand before you, the only Republican in Congress who refuses all donations from political action committees. Their money is no good with me. The American people should be our one and only special interest. You know, Liz Cheney calls herself a leader in Washington, but to me, being a leader does not mean winning an election amongst a bunch of politicians. Being a leader doesn't even mean that you've lived a flawless personal life. I can tell you, I sure haven't. I'd probably say not even former President Trump has. Leadership doesn't mean backing a Nancy Pelosi fueled impeachment by reflex. You know, there's basically two things that Liz Cheney has done in the United States Congress. Frustrate the agenda of President Trump and sell out to the forever war machine. That blows stuff up that nobody cares about, that rebuilds stuff nobody wants, and that borrows money from China to do it. All the while, defense contractors get rich, lobbyists get powerful, Congress members get reelected, and our bravest patriots, the best among us, die and are maimed on the battlefield. Our position is consistent. Liz Cheney's is not. And how can you even call yourself a representative when you don't represent the will of the people? I mean, that's what all the neocons ask about the Arab dictators. I figure maybe we ought to ask the same question of a Beltway bureaucrat turned fake cowgirl who supported an impeachment that is deeply unpopular in the state of Wyoming. Our position is remarkably consistent. And you know, Liz Cheney's kind of a hypocrite on the issue of regime change, I would say. Like, she supports regime change in the Middle East. She supported Nancy Pelosi's regime change impeachment of Donald Trump. But when a majority of the Republicans in Congress say this person no longer speaks for us, all of a sudden Liz Cheney's against regime change. You know, I think our position is the right one. Remove troops from Germany and Korea when they have served their purpose. Remove troops from Afghanistan where there is no purpose. Remove troops from Syria where there wasn't even a purpose in the first place. And remove Liz Cheney as the leader of the Republican conference. Because Because based on the numbers I've seen, Liz Cheney is less popular among Republicans in her own state than Muammar Gaddafi was among the Libyans. I mean, hold on, I gotta get this. So, I had a chance to communicate with President Trump yesterday. He sends his love, he loves you all so much, and President Trump is going to keep fighting for this country with every breath that he has. But he wanted me to share with you the results from a poll that was just released yesterday. 70% of all Wyoming voters believe that the impeachment trial is unconstitutional. 2/3 of all voters in Wyoming disapprove of Liz Cheney's vote to impeach President Trump. Almost 60% approve of the Republicans removing Liz Cheney from Republican leadership.